you. I'm here with Wouter to actually share what we know and what we experienced in our journey. So I will kick off, Wouter will take over and explain a bit more. So when we presented the solution internally, and at Telindus we are a systems integrator. We have a background in making modems. So we were originally 30 years ago in the hardware business. But actually with the transitions we are going through and with partners like Cisco, we actually evolve into a new type of company. And I'm happy to present how we do this, and we give some feedback and insights with customers like SURFnet, but also T-Mobile. So Vlada is here in the picture. He is from T-Mobile. He could not make it. He had a leg injury, so he is excused, but I will take his part over and can elaborate what they experienced with us. So looking at the automation capabilities of NSO, it is really interesting to see that we as a partner can actually have multiple strategies. And to, like a spoiler alert, so you can't do wrong with NSO. Whether you start within the core and expand to the edge, or whether you just do a couple of services for the business, for example. And this is what we did with SURFnet. So it was a complete rebuild of the network, and T-Mobile was just a small portion, and I'll share the insights immediately. So our journey is not that with automation it happens like magic, so within 3 months you will have happy customers. So our journey started in 2014, technology was on our radar, and we liked it, but before we can say, okay, we like it, you need to experience it, so we put it in a lab, and then it went very fast, because people witnessed, oh, but this is great, and you can actually overcome a lot of things. So in 2015, we were certified, the first partner in the Benelux, and we were working and thinking in terms of our planning, what type of customers would be ideal for this. And luckily, SURFnet had put a bid to the market where we thought, okay, this is the perfect moment. And the way SURFnet started and how they went to the market is that it was with a public tender. And most of the people here on stage probably don't have the burden of public tenders. But for us, it was a very, well, completely revival of, okay, how should we work and how should we handle questions that SURF put to market. And we were stretching ourselves a bit because it was quite a long competitive dialogue. In the same moment, we were with our customer T-Mobile also entering in a POC phase. So if you look at this journey, it takes some time before we actually have the deals in, but I'll share the experience what we actually generated. It's not really about the money. And maybe it's a bit odd because everybody associates automation with things that you don't have to do anymore, and that it would be your benefit. And you can make a business case on it, and I made a lot of business cases because every time people were throwing other things in the equation. But for us, what we actually enabled with the technology was our transformation. So not thinking about, okay, we need to sell a lot of Cisco gear, but no, we need to sell services. And how do we actually bring the services to life? And how do we do that smarter? And when you think about automation, within the 5 years that we worked with technology, we actually noticed that to get into a closed loop, you actually need analytics tools, you need assurance tools to get a closed loop environment. So for us, this is like a digital compass. This is our transformational compass, so that we really need to put the heart to, I would say, to our customers, that we would say, look, if you really would like to do something different, this is how we can do this. And this is not a smooth sailing story, it's not a myth. So these presentations today are based on real facts that actually are happening in production. And I can encourage everybody to look at the content that Cisco puts available in the community. And this is a slide from last year, and I wish that I had used that before. Because if you sit down with customers, and if they need to understand the technology, or you start working in the labs and you want to move to production fast, these emotions actually are real. So my message would be, start simple. And I like sailing, so I make an analogy with the sailing sport. And as you can see, I'm flying here, I'm having fun. And this is what we do also with the technology of NSO. And we experiment with the technology. And you can see, if you are flying above the water and you make a small mistake, you dive, and then you can actually collapse with the boat. And that's not a problem, because everything is conditioned, nobody gets harmed, everybody has a vest, everything is really secured. And you can do this with the NSO technology in your lab as well. So if you do that in a virtual lab, nothing can go wrong. And I encourage you to do that, because this is how we got started with the technology, actually do stuff. So basically, when you would be sailing and you are in a sport, how to hit the next level. So same catamaran, same principle, but a new trick. We're going above the water. And I would like to give you this impression that if you start working with the NSO technology, with a different team, different mindset, you will get more returns, because the teaming is totally different. And people get excited. Because most people in the networking domain go a little bit frustrated, because their networks are massive. It's built in 10 years with hand, a lot of things in the mind, a lot of documentation. But if you have something structured and very consistent, like the technology of NSO is able to put forward, it becomes really easy. And people are changing. So the thrill of foiling is best explained with this boat, because it's not a lab exercise, you can actually scale it up. And here you see a sailing boat, bigger crew. So this is your production network. And you have a new type of agility. If you can see, they just make a tap. It's like on the square meter, they can make a tap. And this is what the technology of NSO can bring to you. So you can get speed, and you can get agility, you can get the security right, you can do lots of things with it. And this boat, this is from the America's Cup, so it's like the Formula 1 on sailing. But the funny thing is, this is the fastest boat. And when people look at the boat, and that was the Oracle boat, they have lift, they have a crew, and they have, I would say, as a crew, different functions. And with sailing, these boats, they need to be powered to actually have the hydro foil system up and running. And you have no engine. So everything is manpower. So they have the grinders with the big muscles, and they work like mad to keep the boat afloat. And if you can see, the guy that is steering is also controlling the flight. So the tilt of the boat is controlled by the guy that is steering. And the result is they have the fastest boat. And then if you want to go above and beyond, if you are in this domain and you're working, you're in a competitive landscape, and you want to do it smarter, think about it, what if? What if I do it slightly different? What would you do? So Team New Zealand, they were smarter, and they actually thought, okay, how we operate today, the boat, it can be done smarter. And I encourage you to do the Google and look on some of the tips. But as you can see, the grinder is gone. There is a cyclist. And it's sheer logic. So your arm muscle or your leg muscle, legs generate 40% more power. And this is the type of thinking that we witnessed internally when we look at the software aspects. And it's a big transformation. But if you have this technology in, and you can work differently, you can actually make sure that the helmsman is just the guy that is steering. So his mind is actually free to do other stuff. And you see a lot more effects in that domain. But you need a certain type of can-do mentality. People need to be really able to look at it from a different angle and apply innovation in a smart way. And Team New Zealand did this. And with the cycling, they actually managed to keep the boat afloat longer, so they have a sustained flight. And that is actually my key message here, so that if you start working differently, you will get a new level. And that new level, and here is Sean, one of the guys that actually initiated a lot of things internally. He was such a cyclist. And he is not a sailor, but he's cycling, so he makes always the analogy with cycling. It's a team effort. So when SURFnet put their bid to market, we knew SURFnet for quite a while, because we built the last 3 networks. So we started with 6, we had 7, and then with 8, we thought, okay, it needs to be done differently. So they have a bit with competitive dialogue. And the competitive dialogue means that you can actually ask the market what is the best that we can achieve right now or in the near future. And this is what SURFnet did. And for us, it was a huge challenge because we like to sell a lot of hardware. We like to sell a lot of hardware. Oh yeah, and we like to sell services, and we like to sell many services. But this is wrong. If you start thinking about hardware, you're on the wrong track. So we said, okay, let's turn it around, let's start with the services. And for us, it was really about the service activation. So not the line speeds, they are very impressive. Wouter will explain a bit more what they do. But it's really the agility that they can activate the service within a couple of seconds or minutes in this case. And during the dialogue, we actually had a good conversation about what they want. So they wanted to have within their vision a graphical user interface for end users and for their operators to work on, and have an API so that people can program it. And we said, well, can we turn it around? That we have a massive API and that there is a GUI on top of it. And the reason for this is actually quite simple. Because you do not create a login in a hardware vendor or in our integrator system. Because if you build a GUI, there are the service models, so you're glued in the GUI. And we want to build open models. And that was really exciting because in the RFP initially, that's like a draft, they made sure that the capabilities of making this technology swap was allowed. So the competitive dialogue really helps to drive the new results. And Wouter actually just revealed, like, okay, when we did the exercise, we actually were surprised at the very last dialogue sessions that before we actually submit the quote, we actually needed to show the service activation by video. So our upload to their portal was almost 1 terabyte, and not because of the documentation and all the stuff that we needed to elaborate, but also we had made a couple of videos. So I will not show it, but if people are really interested, we can show these type of videos that we built for them. But for them, it was quite clear how we would execute the services, and we were able to do all this because we have a virtual lab, and that was good fun for us to build. And it was really raising the bar for us to actually make sure that we are delivering what the customer wants. So when SURFnet kept us busy with their SURFnet 8 project, T-Mobile started with their first network automation project as well. And these were long sales cycles. A lot of things were happening, and luckily we got the help of Cisco AS, so that we were not stretched. So SURFnet 8, we did that on our own, and with T-Mobile, Cisco AS, and Martin, I saw him. Thank you, Martin, for doing the POC, and make sure that we actually have some progress in the account, because we were just starting up. And like I said, so Cisco has a lot of good pointers in the community. Use them. This is basically the path that we took. It's not in a formal advisory journey, but we had lots of help from people to actually make the business case and make sure that we get to the POC. And after the POC, it took some time, but we actually got the order and we started building. So we were building 3 types of business services for them, and they were related to enabling the shops, the fixed mobile conversion services, and a LAN access service. And when we started, the people within T-Mobile were excited. We trained a lot of people, and they wanted to see and show the results immediately. And that was big of a stress for us, because we needed to show the results. So we started with, I would say, 3 services, 3 templates. So we run a big, huge leap forward, because people saw the big progress and got confidence in the technology, but we were confronted with, okay, it works, but now we need to scale it better. So we actually more or less needed to throw away the code and start all over again. But at that moment in time, we actually showed confidence to the customer, okay, this technology works and we can do a lot of things with it. So to do the overhaul for the 3 services means that we are doing a lot of things in their labs and then put it in production. And it was quite exciting because when they put it in production, we were not informed because they were confident with all the testing that it would be done correctly. And what is their progress, you would think? So the way they worked, and they started with the technology from the working floors with the design teams and the ops teams. And we managed to do the service activation of business customers, which normally took 4 hours of man labor logging into boxes. We reduced that to 90 seconds. And there is your money, you would say. And I tell you, yes, it is money, but it is the customer experience. And it's also the thrill that you know, okay, we're doing this again and again and again, and it will always be like this, first time right. And that effect had a better impulse to the team, but also new insights, because they were used to operate a big network, a massive mobile network, and now they needed to handle the software skills. So we added the software skills a bit later, so you can see that they are moving in the CI/CD domain, but a bit late. So our recommendation would be do that as fast as you can, get external help, because it will give you a lot of benefits later on. But this is for us a milestone, because if you are reducing the 99% of repetitive tasks, really boring work, you actually have more time to do interesting stuff. And the 100% plus is really about getting the team spirit up, and also the confidence levels, not just with the design teams, but also with the operation teams, that people see, okay, this is much more convenient. So the first service that they activated was hitting the network on 30 network elements, router switches, firewalls, and all multi-vendor. And that's really a key message here as well. You can really trust Cisco to hit and run networks in a multi-vendor fashion. So we did it in production, and for them it was a very brave thing to do, because after lots of testing, somebody pushed the button, because they were hitting a lot of elements, and everybody was like, okay, this goes well. And it went well. After 90 seconds, no telephone calls. We only see the customers coming up in live. And this is where we have some recommendations, and I'll share that a bit later. But I hand over to Wouter. He will explain more about the project SURFnet.
Okay, thank you all. So my name is Wouter Huisman, network architect at SURFnet. Well, brief introduction on SURFnet. SURFnet is the National Research and Education Network of the Netherlands. So we're providing services to universities and research institutes. And typical services we offer from the network perspective is IP transit and point-to-point connectivity services, but on high volume. So access ports start at 1 gig up to 100 gig. So and that's also to facilitate my research traffic demand, for example, from giant radio telescopes or large radar collider in CERN. And for that we also have some fiber footprints abroad towards Hamburg, Geneva, and London. SURFnet, every 5 to 6 years we replace the network, having a new generation of hardware and NMS systems. So at the moment we are running SURFnet 7, we are replacing with SURFnet 8. And typically it's forklift upgrades, so you really do the full network. For SURFnet 8 we changed that concept. We want to introduce the orchestration layer and automation layer on top of it, which should remain for the foreseeable future. So we have technology domains below that orchestration layer, and those can change or evolve over time. But in principle, at this moment we have 4 technology domains. We've got a wireless, optical, and network virtualization domain, and a service layer domain. And in this presentation I will go into the service layer domain, which is controlled by NSO. So how did we make that decision to go for automation orchestration? We have a long history back to benefit on non services, so APIs, external control on the network is not rare for us. We started that maybe 10 years ago already. But the whole step towards automation, that's of course a big commitment. And for that we got the MT to support this with a continuous investment and attract also external software developers. Besides also the formation of an automation team, which is consisting of 3 engineers with software background. But that's not all. Of course, you need a lot of discussion on with all the related departments, which can involve their work process and convince them that this is the way forward. And well, that's okay for a start, but you have to continuously get them in the loop. So we do the software development for the automation stack in a 2-weekly sprint, and have stage updates every 2 weeks, get them involved, get their feedback, and keep them really, included in the whole process. So the ingredients for the orchestration utopia we defined at the start of the project is that that single point of truth is really essential. Before starting your automation, you have to define which parameter is located in which system. And we found out that certain IP addresses were administered in 3 or 4 systems. And of course, you have conflicts there, and well, that results in undesirable behavior. So, very important to get that right, and to be very rigid on that approach, which can lead, of course, if you have that defined, you can create those solid information models, which can scale over time and grow if your network has different demands. So we have already existing applications which have all the information of the network. So we have to interface with those applications via standardized interfaces. So we use Sphere APIs to connect to them. So we could replace certain applications if needed. And of course, we want to automate the administration as much as possible. So as less human interaction is needed to really get all the administration reliable, which should in the end result in predetermined service delivery. And of course, that's only guaranteed if you have a solid native integration testing. So this automation orchestration adds a lot of complexity and a lot of more skills to our team. So one way to simplify this is also to reduce the complexity from the network as much as possible. And well, of course, we've got NSO. It's kind of expression layer on top of our network, so that's easy. But you can go one step further and improve your network even further. So from the tender, we got a single vendor supplying the address network, which is single domain. We've got a dynamic control plane, segment routing, quite straightforward as well. We reduced the product family to one product family, so one chipset, one OS, and we require that every node has the same capability. So it's really a flat network, which it doesn't matter where you provision a service, it's all the same. And of course, that brings us a lot of flexibility because you don't know how the future will evolve in a network. We can adapt to that. This is a drawing we show a lot. I don't have to explain this, but we have an orchestration layer with REST API. We use NSO with the young models, Python logic, and XML templates, and it goes via netcom to our network. The architecture of our automation stack looks like this. We've got a network dashboard where the end users can log into and check their KPIs of their services. But also in future they have a self-service portal on that network dashboard, so they can change or create or terminate services as well. The orchestration layer that interfaces with all the applications with Northstar for external path computation. We've got a CoreDB, which is our database for the orchestration, Jira for ticketing, CRM for customer information, IMS for the logical and physical administration of the network, and IPAM for IP address management. And beneath the orchestration layer, we have got the APIs towards the service domains or the technology domains. And as you can see, NSO is there as well. The more detailed view of this same diagram is shown in this slide. Besides the end users, we also have, well, on the left-hand side, we've got the NOC engineer, which has, of course, interfaces towards monitoring systems. But on the right-hand side, we also have now the developer, software developer, network developer with some software skills, which will add their code to our GitLab server and deploy it via CI/CD towards different environments. So we've got a deep upstream of testing, development, staging, and production. And below each of those environments, we have the different networks. So we've got two virtualized networks, which gives us the opportunity to test search models, but also the complete automation stack. And of course, we've got a production environment which kicks into our production network. And why is that virtual testbed so important for us? Of course, search models need to be validated, but also the full integration from applications like Jira, IMS systems, up to the nodes. We need to test the functionality all the way. And of course, if something goes wrong during the development cycle, you can always go back to a known state and you can start over again. So the products we have in NSO developed in search models, we see twofold types of services. We've got customer-facing services, like I said before, and we've got NOC-facing products, which in this case, for example, are the nodes and the core links and IP peerings. And the nodes and core links are really kind of staging products we need to do before we can roll out a node in the network. But the nice thing is that by using also products for non-customer facing products, we know for sure that the configuration on the node, which is manually entered on the node, is limited to 10 or 20 lines of code. The rest is all automated by NSO. So there is a lot of reliability and equality between the nodes in the network. The same kind of modeling of products is also done in our automation stack. We create products, and the products are then have certain parameters like fixed inputs, and each product has product blocks with resources below it. And depending on what you have, for example, this is the IP service. We've got on the left-hand side the SAP. It's the service attach point. So you can translate it to an access port on the service. VC is virtual circuits, which is kind of administration product block, and the IP service settings is the more generic service setting of an IP service. So what you will see is that the IP service setting will occur only once within the product. The SAP, the service attach point, can be multiple if you have redundancy for your IP service. But it's a hierarchical model. So for example, the SAP, we have got a link to a product which is called the service port, which is then an instantiation of that product, which can be reused by the IP service. And also the same counts also for the IP prefix. So in that way, we model the different products and glue them together within the orchestration. And I show this because I want to go into the GUI of our application, so you recognize more or less how the products are modeled and also how it's shown in the web GUI. So this is the subscription and instantiation of the IP service, the BGP IP service. And what you see is we've got the IP SS with the ASN number, multicast, yes or no, and the next will be the SAP, the service attach point, with all the settings for that particular service. The next is done at virtual service administration, and then we have the lifecycle management actions we can kick off. the service has already been created, so there's no creation action, logically. But there is a termination. We can modify the service, we can add ports, remove ports. And the nice thing is, what I really find powerful within our orchestration is that we have the processes. So every action you kick off will create a process which you can look up, even though it's done 5 months ago. You see the whole history. So in this subscription, I only created the service, but if I would have modified it, I would see more processes below that. So you could go back in the full history of the service. And so if you open that process on the right hand side, you see all the steps taken by the workflow engine. And for example, you fill in the parameters. In this case, you see the bottom part is you define your service attach point, parameters, that's being manipulated again, such that it's ready to send to NSO. So the NSO payload is generated here, and then it's the next step. It will be fired off to NSO, and the service is created. So that's how it's working for creation process. Very straightforward. However, we have got SURFnet 7, which is the old network. We have a lot of servers there, and we have to migrate those servers to the new network. And our approach was that we want to import all the existing servers from SURFnet 7 into our database, and have then the ability to migrate those services to the new network. So we had to import it, do a lot of CLI scraping, scripting, API calls to different applications, and now, guess what? It was quite a nightmare. A lot of inconsistency came up with different, corruptions, you name it, everything was touched. So it was actually a good argument to our MT. This automation is really what we have to do. Human error is everywhere. So we fixed all those problems, and we have a clean database now of the existing services. We can migrate it. And first this slide, before I kick off a screencast. Sorry, I didn't change that slide. But maybe good to explain it like this. What we will do in the screencast, we will copy over the IPSS from SURFnet 7 instantiation to SURFnet 8. So by doing that copy, we create a SURFnet 8 service. After that, we'll move the SAP, which is on the left-hand side, and move it over to the right to SURFnet 8, and then that is provisioned also on the network. So that's what we'll see in the next video. So what you see is we open the SURFnet 7 subscription. You see the ASN number 64850. We open the point-to-point. It's a BGP service, so you see we've got an IP address of 280. It's a bit quick, but it's important because the IP address of the BGP session must remain the same from one network to the other network, because we don't want the customer to change that point-to-point. So it's copied over. We check whether that service is indeed created. So you go to the subscription page, check whether there is a service in provisioning state, and that's this SURFnet 8 BGP service. Just double click it or click it, open, you see again the ASN number 64850. So it's copied over cleanly. We go back to the SURFnet 7 subscription, and it's easily found because it's now in a migrating state. You don't want to change anything on that. But you can still copy over that service attach point. That's allowed. So that's the next thing. So you open the new action. It kicks off that process. So sometimes you have those intermediate steps to fill in parameters like this. So you match port 1 to port B, the old port, new port. submit it. And again, you can validate is it indeed the correct port we are migrating, because you don't want to have a customer connected to another network. And then at that moment, you need to plug over the fiber from the old SURFnet 7 device to the SURFnet 8 device, and the customer is migrated. You of course check with the customer it's all up and running. We have those monitoring tools to check it, but also confirmation from the customers is quite handy as well. And then check just on the hardware. We see 2.0. Yeah, it's pretty. The IP address was there on the interface, and we see also here again in NSO the service is being created with the IP address 218. So it typically takes about 5 minutes. I got a couple of waiting stages during the process, but all in all, you should be able to migrate the service, including the patch fiber, actually in 5 to 10 minutes. And we are looking forward to start this off from next week, actually. So back to the original topic of foiling. Do we foil? I think not yet. We are not yet there, but maybe in a year's time, we hope to be there. So NSO service modeling is very, very straightforward. We have a simple network, so we don't do complex things. And I must say, NSO is behaving very predictable, so no special things there. Developing the workflows is a bit slower. A lot more applications are being touched, and also those applications are less reliable. We run into strange things which need to be fixed. A lot of testing is still to be done every time we create a new workflow. So that takes more time, so it's delaying the rollout somehow. And of course, you have a different mindset. In the past, you had those cutting the corners because you are doing something manually on the hardware. That's not possible anymore. You have to stick to the rigid procedures, but it will give you a lot of value as well, because your network becomes consistent and predictable. That was my last one.
Yeah, thank you, Wouter, for sharing your insights on how you actually made sure that you can get in flight. And I will close off with a couple of our observations working with 2 different types of customers. And we have had dialogues with many more, and we have done some talks as well. But if you want to have new results, if you really want to have that foiling state so that you have the agility and the speed, you need to look at your procurement model. So during the model, when we did the deployment of the mobile, we actually changed the procurement way for the better. And that was something that I think SURFnet did it to the extreme. They used the competitive dialogue, and that really helped to drive new results. And if you look at how to engage with a technology partner, Cisco, so we're an integrator. I'm not sure whether you have an integrating role as well, but sometimes it's hard to convince Cisco how to play along. So if you look at winning the network of SURF, we were actually selling against Cisco, because Cisco went in with a different partner. And luckily we had a good support from the BU, from the NSO people. So I urge you to really look open, to make sure that if you get started, you really can rely on the technology, but also on the people behind the technology of NSO. They will help you with driving new results. And obviously you need to show results fast if you're doing a project or in a big deployment. The one key thing that we are, I would say, encouraging would be emphasizing NSO to really invest in the state of making sure that you have analytics to actually migrate services faster. So this is the work that Wouter did in a different way. We're looking at third-party tools to actually help us getting the insights of the network to really overcome the emotions that we experience when people need to explain how they were working and what the network is configured. And Netrounds is here, so we also tested Netrounds. We haven't been able to sell it yet, but it's a key component really to get to that closed loop state. So we really encourage Cisco to drive that ecosystem better and really share that type of best practices. So we're doing it here. For us, it's really exciting to work with this technology because it's not really the business result that it is making, I would say, the most fun. It's really managing a large, complex network in a totally different way, and that's really exciting. And that's why I phrase it as this is priceless. Any questions? Maybe a few. Yeah.
Good question. Which workflow engine are you using? Is it the Telindus open source one or?
It's a homegrown application.
Okay, thanks.
My question is, in your network, you have a fairly large capacity for customers can have up to 10 gig or so. Do you support something like a specific path for a customer? Say, I would like to have low latency path or something like that. And if so, how will you implement it?
Yeah, so we steer it by the ISS metric as the first option. So we have the metrics and we have express routes, so fully mesh network. But preferably we bring all the network or the traffic as much to the core of the network, and it should result in the shortest path. But we have the North Star application, external path computation, so you can, if the result is not desirable, we can change that by pinpointing a strict path by the North Star.
Okay, so North Star does that, and NSO that configures the endpoints.
Yeah. So and if we don't see a lot of demand for that North Star to define certain paths, so we are not sure yet how and when we will do the automation part of that, so that NSO has the capabilities to steer information towards the North Star. It's just a value. Yeah, the effort should match the effort to do it should match the time you spend on it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question? Well, thank you for your interest. So I hope that you have seen the two different strategies. There is an easy conclusion. So NSO works. Don't be afraid. Go all in, make fun, and hope that you reach that foiling experience, the thrill, real soon. Thank you for your attention.
Cisco, the bridge to possible.